This is Unit 6, Worksheet 2. Let's see what we got here. We're going to do the first one. Negative x plus 6 equals 21. How do I solve this equation? What do I do first? Negative x plus 6 equals equals 21. Yep.
Minus 6.
Yeah, I'm going to subtract that positive 6. The opposite of adding 6 is to subtract 6. So let's get this minus 6 here. And then when I cross that out, what comes down on the left-hand side?
Yeah.
Negative.
The negative x equals, and then 21 minus 6, most days is 15. How else can I write negative x? You don't have to do this, it's understood, but how else can I write just negative x?
Negative 1.
There's really technically a negative 1 there in front of it. But when I solve, and I ask you to solve for x, I'm not asking for what does negative x equal, right? I want to know what x equals. I don't want to know negative 1x equals. I want to know what positive 1x equals. So if you left your answer as negative x equals 15, you didn't complete the problem yet. I don't want negative x equals 15. I want just 1x. Any coefficient. What's the coefficient here? Not 1, but negative 1. I always want the coefficient to be 1. If your coefficient is not 1, you can turn any coefficient into 1 by doing what? Divide negative 1 by negative 1 in this case, or divide whatever the coefficient is by itself. So if I divide this by negative 1, negative 1 divided by negative 1 is 1, which is what I want. What I do to one side, do to the other side. Divide by negative 1, positive 15, divided by negative 1 is negative 15. So 1x, or just x, equals negative 15. Any questions? So be careful for that negative x term. Make sure you get rid of that negative x, make it a positive x. All right, second one. We have negative 8 minus 8n equals negative 16. All right, very similar. What's my first step? What's my first step? Yep. Yeah, I'm going to add, I'm going to leave this variable, I'm going to leave the term with the variable alone. I'm going to add 8. This does not have a variable. Add 8 to both sides. The negative 8 and positive 8 goes away. What comes down on the left-hand side here? Here's my equal sign. What do I bring down? Make sure you bring down the sign with the number. Right? Common mistake here. So negative 8n equals, well, negative 16 and positive 8 gives me a negative 8. Awesome. Almost there. I don't want negative 8n. Again, I want just 1n. How do I make this negative 8n into a 1n? Yep. Excellent. Divided by negative 8, its coefficient. Divide the other side by negative 8. Negative 8 divided by negative 8 is 1n equals negative 8 divided by negative 8 is just 1. Do I have to write 1n? That 1 turns into my box there, and n equals 1. You can always go back and check, right? If you do negative 8 minus and you substitute the 1 in for n, does that give you negative 16? You get negative 8 minus 8, which is negative 16, equals negative 16. Check. So you can always check your work. Next one. Number 3. A little different on this one. Now we have a quantity there. We have a number in front of that quantity, which is still the coefficient of the quantity. You have negative 4 quantities of negative 2 plus 3x equals negative 28. There's 2 ways to solve this problem. What do you guys want to do? How do you want to go about solving this problem first? Yep. Yeah, awesome. So forgetting about the negative signs for a second, look at the number 4 and look at the number 28. Can 4 go into 28 evenly? Yeah, so I love that first step. So I'm going to divide negative 4 quantities by negative 4 so I can get one quantity of negative 2 plus 3x. And if I divide, that will allow me to write that 1. Negative 4 quantities divided by negative 4 gives me one quantity. But since I divided the left side by negative 4, if I do the one side, must do to the other. Good. Be careful here. Signs first. What's a negative divided by a negative? 28 divided by 4. Do I have to write this one quantity of it? Nope. So I don't have to write that. Once I divide by that coefficient, drop those parentheses. You don't need them anymore. Okay. Now we're down to a two-step equation. How do we get this x by itself? I don't want negative 2 plus 3x. I just want 3x. Yep. Yeah, I'm going to add 2. So I want to get this term with the variable by itself. Bring down my 3x equals 7 plus 2, 9. I don't want 3x equals 9. I just want x. What do I do now? Yep. All yours.
Oh, divided.
Yeah, divide by 3, divide by the coefficient. X is equal to 3, and we're done. Very nice. 3 more. Any questions before I move on to the next one? Okay. Okay, there's 2 problems that look similar to this one. I'm going to ask you right now, are both these numbers p minus 3, are both these terms p minus 3 being divided by 3, or is just one of those terms being divided by 3? Are both those terms being divided by 3, or is one of those terms being divided by 3? Both. So I'm just going to put this in parentheses because all that is being divided by 3. All right. How do I solve for this one? Yep. Okay. Excellent. Get rid of this dividing by 3. Since the entire thing is being divided by 3, since the entire quantity is being divided by 3, you could get rid of dividing by 3 by multiplying by 3. 3 divided by 3 is what? 1 quantity of p minus 3. I multiply the left side by 3. I multiply the right side by 3. So 1 quantity of p minus 3 is equal to a negative times a positive is a negative, and 7 times 3 is 21. Do I need to write 1 quantity of p minus 3? So I can get rid of that, get rid of those, get rid of those. Now just down to a 2-step equation. P minus 3 equals negative 21. I don't want p minus 3. I just want p. What do I do now? Yep. Yeah, I'm going to add 3 to both sides. Awesome. Add 3, add 3. That goes away. Bring down my p. Integer rules. Have a negative 21 and a positive 3. Same signs or different signs? Different signs. Find the difference. What's 21 minus 3? Is 18, and do I have, is the bigger absolute value, which one's the bigger absolute value, negative 21 or positive 3? Negative 21 is the bigger absolute value. It's negative. My answer is negative. Questions on 4? Number 5. So these 2 problems are very similar. But now, are both terms being divided by 2, or just one term being divided by 2? Only one. So your first step is different on this one, right? We cleared the fraction first on the last problem because the whole quantity was being divided by 3. In this case, only the a is being divided by 2. So what's my first step here? Yep. Yeah, so what I want to do is I want to get this a over 2 by itself. So I want a over 2 equals something. And I can do that by getting rid of this positive 2 here from the left side. What do you do to one side? Do to the other. That goes away. A over 2 equals negative 5 and negative 2. Same signs. Find the sum. 5 plus 2 is 7. Both are negative, so negative 7. I don't want a divided by 2 equals negative 7. I just want a. How do you get rid of this dividing by 2? I don't want a divided by 2 equals negative 7. I just want a. How do I get rid of this dividing by 2? Yeah, I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. Dividing by 2 and multiplying by 2 simplifies, leaving me with just a. What do I do to one side? Do to the other side. Negative 7 times 2, negative 14. Again, you want to check your work? Go back in here, plug in negative 14 into a. Negative 14 divided by 2 is negative 7. Negative 7 plus 2 is negative 5. Yep. Okay, so that's very, okay, so multiplying by 2 and this one versus this one. I don't want to say you can't multiply by 2, but you can. So if you just multiply this by 2 and, so switching the order would, right, would lead you in an incorrect manner. You can multiply by 2, but you would have to multiply 1, 2, and 3 terms by 2. So just to, but you can make this one easier if you get rid of the 2 first. One more. This one has a quantity then. The quantity is a fraction, no big deal. Very easily to get rid of a fraction. Any fraction can turn into 1 if I multiply by its what? Any fraction can be multiplied. Yeah, if you take any fraction, you multiply by reciprocal, it turns into a 1. However, I don't have just a negative fraction, I have a negative fraction. So before I even think about the fraction, how do I make a negative number turn into a positive number? How do I make a negative number turn into a positive number? How do I make a negative number turn into a positive number? Yeah, a negative times a negative. So if we think about negative times a negative is equal to a positive. So first off, I'm going to multiply this by negative something. And then what's the reciprocal of 1 over 3? 3 or 3 over 1. I'll take it. So negative 3. That will allow me to have a positive 1 quantity of 2n minus 7. Multiplying a negative 1/3 by a negative 3. Okay? I multiply the left side by negative 3. I'm going to multiply the right side by negative 3. Now my equation is balanced again. Negative times a negative is a positive, and 5 times 3 is 15. Do I need this positive 1 in the front? No. We'll get rid of that. And now I have a two-step equation. 2n minus 7 equals 15. How do I solve this first? What's my first step here? 2n minus 7 equals 15. I don't want 2n minus 7. I just want 2n. I want to isolate that variable. What's my first step? Add what? Not 2, but I want. Yeah, I'm going to add 7. Right, I want to get this term down by itself. That 7 doesn't have an n, so let's get that 7 on the other side. 15 plus 7, 22. 2n equals 22, so 2 n's have 22 units. How much does 1 n have? Yeah, divide by 2, because each n gets the same amount. 1 n is equal to 22 divided by 2, which is 11.